I guess it's my turn. Thank you, Brittany. I like you a lot. That was awesome. I just appreciate the clarity of thought. For me, I feel like my entry point into this conversation, I just want to be really clear about it. Like I had this like sort of like fanciful notion of preparing for this webinar, and then life happened. And when I say that, I mean life on Guam, how we actually live it here happened. What I mean is, for the last 72 hours, all we have done, me and my entire team at my law firm, is work around the clock to finalize a comment in response to a current US attempt to engage or to instigate a process of deep sea mining in the waters off the coast of both the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands and Guam, all of our islands. And this, mind you, is on top of like every other comment that our communities, our indigenous peoples of both Guam and CNMI have had to comment. We have spent this entirety almost of this year and the past 6 years responding, like lurching from one crisis to another, commenting, reading voluminous documents. And when I say voluminous, I mean like we're talking in the 90,000 page like level. This is it's like thousands of pages cumulatively of federal, highly specialized technical documents that we're responding to. And what are those documents? It's basically every single attempt by the United States military to militarize everything in our islands on land and at sea. So this deep sea mining attempt, and that's why I couldn't prepare anything for this talk, which I think is a perfect entry point because that gives you sort of a sense, like a palpable sense of the kind of sort of like real oppressive, urgent, like kind of ceaseless experience of our lives for coming on a decade. My people spend all of our time responding and trying so hard to sort of mitigate the sort of harms, the manifold harms that the US military industrial complex is having on our island right now. So the deep sea mining is one thing. It's clearly going to have a wide range of deleterious impacts on all of the benthic environment, on all marine mammals. And that's just deep sea mining. There's also US military activities that we also had to respond to, and those activities were basically going to threaten tens of thousands of marine mammals, all manner of dolphins and whales, all of our other than human relatives. And on land, the same is happening. The US military has spent the last several years bulldozing thousands of acres of pristine limestone forests. We have fought them on every front. We, as a law firm, this is just our particular role. We have basically thrown lawsuits at the U.S. military every step of the way under every conceivable federal environmental statute, from the National Environmental Policy Act to the Endangered Species Act to the Administrative Procedures Act. This is just our life. It's a ridiculously oppressive process. And that is why we can't even address the bigger monstrous problem that we are having, which is we haven't even been able to throw off the colonial yoke. Guam is a formally recognized non-self-governing territory, i.e., UN recognized colony. We are slated for a formal act of decolonization whereby we will get to, in theory, choose to emerge as an independent nation on our own terms. And all of that is happening. So now you have the most aggressive, unilateral, sort of military buildup in modern history sitting right on top of 500 years of uninterrupted colonization. And that is what we're up against in the islands. And that is why, like, it's ridiculously annoying to be like, I mean, I will just be frank. I'm happy that I basically said yes to this webinar. I wanted to meet everyone here and talk to everyone and be part of this conversation that's really urgent and necessary in every possible way. But at the same time, this is it's too much. It's all too much. And I think that is not anomalous. It's the point. I mean, the US military industrial complex is the air we breathe. It is like our meat and drink. I don't know how else to really capture that, but basically it controls our daily life. I mean, it's theoretically the holiday season, and that's all we can do is try to stay this or arrest the spreading canopy of US militarization. But that is not a life. That is not a life. And that is what we are up against. And I think the reason why I say no to like 99% of all webinars now at this point, and I know that's bad on my part as an organizer, but I can barely breathe because that is something that the American, like even anti-war community, civil society movements, I mean, I have worked with so many of them, cannot understand. There is a glaring lack of appreciation for our context here in the Pacific and in the Mariana Islands, to include Guam and the Sinai in particular. We are like under siege in it in a total, thorough, comprehensive, and cataclysmic way. And that is why we get so frustrated and that's sort of the central idea I want to bring to the conversation. And I hope that's okay and that it's received in the spirit in which it's given. That's my central critique. It's that we have failed as even an anti-war movement to look to the bottom. We have failed at radical listening. And by radical listening, I mean listening to the voices of those who are the most oppressed, the most vulnerable. And that is exactly what our communities here in the Marianas are. We are acutely vulnerable to all of sort of the ingenious machinations of the American empire and the American imperial imagination. I mean, you should see, I mean, I'll just give you an even more exceedingly concrete example. There is a 360-degree missile defense system that the US military is proposing to build. Of course, it's unprecedented, untested, never been done, and at the same time, although every single National Defense Authorization Act, every single budget bill and supplemental budget bill, and we know, right, that has just topped $1 trillion. I think it was George Monbiot who actually said, you don't judge a country really. Its real constitutive document is not the Constitution, it's the budget. That's how you judge sort of the commitments of a country and the values of a country. And that really is instructive in this case, because the US is a country that just is going to, because unless we can stop it, engage in sort of endless warmongering. That has always been true. And if we don't get better at a movement, it will continue to be true. And it's going to have very exceedingly concrete impacts on my people and the people of the Marianas. But that setting that aside, we as a community have raised the alarm, we've rung the bell on one tiny, minuscule aspect of this 360-degree military missile defense system. The fact that there are no money, there is no funds, and there's never been funds for bomb shelters. It is a joke. Like, we have been told, basically, by the federal government and its sort of local counterparts, i.e., like Guam Homeland Security, that basically we should shelter in place. And this goes, and it's every time. Like in 2017, I will also try to wrap up soon. In 2017, when North Korea was threatening Guam with ballistic missiles that are said to be capable of reaching the island within 14 minutes, we were actually told, there was like a freaking flyer that came out, and we were told that we basically, for those of us who are unfortunate enough to find ourselves outdoors when such a ballistic missile reaches the island, we should do things like not only shelter in place, but also if we're caught outside, we should definitely shampoo our hair, but not condition our hair, because radioactive material has a tendency to stick by way of that conditioner. I I only bring this, one, it's true. Two, I don't know what an indigenous pulverized community is supposed to do at this point with such spectacularly useless suggestions. And that is exactly what we're up against, and exactly the kind of thing and the kind of urgency that we are always trying to smuggle into the national anti-war movement and conversation. And I swear to God, we have been at this for 20 years almost. Like, I have actively participated in this movement for 18 of those years, and it has not happened. Our stories are not made center. The margin is never brought to the center. We have conversations about this, and it's a nominal, theoretical, almost speculative exercise, but it's not real, and nothing has changed. And that is something that is more frustrating than I can possibly convey with words. I can't even find the language to describe the sort of rage that I have with that. So that is the gist of sort of what I want to contribute. In part, it's a plea, but it's in part like a frustration that's been earned over all of these years. And I believe, like, if the American left and the anti-war movement cannot accommodate this sort of thing that we're asking, and that is to sort of realize that the America's war of aggressions, especially now pointed most squarely at China, it is impacting this particular geopolitical theater with sort of unmatched urgency. And but somehow we can't recalibrate the national conversation around that recognition. That is problematic to me. that is the gist, sort of what I want to contribute. I hope you can receive it again in the spirit in which I offer.